welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast and episode 2 of our special feature segments called All About Adelphi. There you go on the bottom of the screen. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is your host, Howard Kravitz. We have a really special show for you this evening. Again, these segments are dedicated to the fantastic Adelphi Racing Club, a wonderful partnership out of New York, of which I'm proud to be a part of and have pieces of 2 horses. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a fantastic special guest. I'm very excited to have this gentleman on, which we'll bring him on in just a few minutes after we take care of a few things I'd like to tell you. First of all, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, our next live broadcast will be this Thursday night, and it's a little bit of an earlier time. It's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Thursday with the one and only Matt Bernier from NBC Sports, and he wears many different hats. We're going to be talking about a huge day of racing at Oaklawn this Saturday. So please join, again, the HHH Racing Podcast this Thursday, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern with Matt Bernier. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there if you haven't done that, especially if you are a partner here at Adelphi Racing Club. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell so that you know when new content will arise, especially our All About Adelphi features. And then also smash that thumbs up button. That will tell YouTube that this is a fantastic, interesting show. There's the information, by the way, if you're new to the Adelphi Racing Club. Matt Cutera does a great job as the racing manager, and you can see the website there on the screen, email, Instagram, and Twitter. If you are listening to this, of course, you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor. So if you're listening to this, please go to my YouTube channel, again, HHH Racing Podcast, and you can watch the show there, and you can find out also about Adelphi Racing Club. And I'm just going to go ahead very briefly show everyone where that is on the screen. So I'll share my screen so everyone can see. If you go to my YouTube channel, there you go. And just go ahead and scroll down there, and you see there's a section that says All About Adelphi. We've already had one episode where we talked about 2 horses that I personally co-own. One's named Salivo, and the other one, I don't know if I can make it official yet. He does have a name that's been accepted, but I don't think it's quite official. So I'll wait for Matt Cutera to tell me that we can actually say the name of the Taproot colt. But Salivo is, of course, named Street Sense Filly, that our guest knows very well, that everyone in the partnership is very excited to talk about. So anyway, that's where you can check out our episodes right there. Also, there's a lot of promotions here on the show. I'm not going to really talk about them too much. Go below the video player and you can find out. Now, if you are new to the show or you're part of the partnership, please make sure in the top right-hand side of the screen, we have a live chat. Go into the live chat. We already have someone commenting right now. Uh-oh, this is from Matt Cutera. Okay, so I can make it official, folks. We're going to make it official right now. We have the name of the Taproot colt, ladies and gentlemen. This is a colt by Taproot, and the dam is Eccentric Spinster. The name of this horse is called Magistrate. Magistrate. Give it up for Magistrate, the name of the Taproot colt, just official by the Jockey Club this week. So congratulations to myself, who has a piece along with my brother and all the partners of the wonderful gray colt by Taproot. His name, Magistrate. So look out for Salivo and Magistrate coming up later this year, hopefully. All right, I think that takes care of everything we want to talk about, because I'd like to bring on our guest. I don't want to waste any more time. I don't think we need to. I think we've covered everything. Let me just check. I think we have. Again, please make sure you comment. Any questions for this guest would be greatly appreciated. I know I'll be happy to answer them. So without further ado, let's bring him on right now as I go ahead and press a few buttons. Here we go. This gentleman has done a great job, not only for Adelphi, but for other people as well. He's been in the industry for a very long time for obvious reasons I'm sure he'll talk about. we'd like to bring on the Bloodstock Agent for the Adelphi Racing Club, live from Florida. There he is, Joe Migliore. Joe, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Howard. Excited to be on, and thank you for having me on. Sorry to the viewers, this is my hotel room behind you right now. I'm down in Ocala, Florida, for the OBS March sale, and scouting out some 2-year-old and training sale horses, and just excited to be on tonight, and happy to be with you guys from Ocala, Florida.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Listen, you've had a very busy week. We know it's not over yet. We have so many things we want to ask you, questions, not only on behalf of the Adelphi Racing Club, but just people in general that are watching. We have a lot of people watching live right now that are interested, of course, in you and getting into the business, I'm sure, as well. I mean, a lot of times you hear on podcasts, including mine, about handicapping, and we all want to win money, but there are so many things that go on behind the scenes that maybe some people are not aware of that we want you to fill people in on. We have MyTube is here. You're going to see questions and comments on the bottom of the screen. MyTube, not YouTube, MyTube. Thanks for joining the show. I've actually not seen you, MyTube, so thanks. So we appreciate it. Magistrate, yeah, hopefully is going to have a wonderful career. So, Joe, here's what we're going to do. Talk a little bit about, we're going to ask you a few questions about your background, your family background, etc., and then we'll jump into the sales and Adelphi in particular, and then we'll end with my famous 10 minutes to post segment, rapid fire sort of fun questions, some horse racing, some not horse racing. So you'll see what that's about. So first of all, talk a little bit about growing up as a jockey and assistant trainer's son. Of course, both your parents were still in the business, are in the business. Talk about what that was like growing up.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I'm also the first child in my family. I'm the oldest of 4, so I think from a very early age, it was the only things I really truly my earliest memories, all that I can remember, from maybe ages 3, 4, 5 years old, is being at the racetrack. It's very much home for me. It's very much where I grew up. And for a while before I had any siblings, it was very much just myself watching my father ride, with my mother at the racetrack. I think that very much ingrained in me from a young age that this was a place I found comfort in, a place that I found an excitement in, and really wanted to be at. And obviously, of course, as I got older as well and reached my teenage years, I was probably what you would call a bit of a track rat. I wouldn't leave the racetrack. Every single weekend was going to the races with my father, and being in the jockey's room, being out in the crowd. And for me, it's just always been, especially the New York tracks, Belmont and Aqueduct in particular, that's home, So growing up in that setting, how could you not end up in racing?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about some of these tracks. I know your father's talked about Aqueduct glowingly quite a bit for many obvious reasons. So you touched on this a little bit. Which part of the horse racing industry interested you the most in your teen years? I know you walked hots for Mike Hushin and for John Kimmel as well, but as you were sort of going in your formative years, was there a particular part of the industry that you really wanted to be involved in?
So to be honest, I think it began in those kind of preteen years, and maybe like 13, 14, of like still that slight hope that I could be a jockey myself. Excuse me. But I've passed my dad in height, I think at about 13 or 14. It was always, people. So I used to, as a young kid around the racetrack, people ask you who you want to be or what you want to be when you grow up. And my answer when I was younger would always be, I either want to be a jockey or I want to play in the NBA. And people would laugh right in my face. And, to a 10, 11-year-old, kid, you don't really understand why. Well, it turns out I ended up very much in the middle of those two professions, far too tall to be a jockey and far too short to be in the NBA, or not skilled enough to be in the NBA. So, that's kind of where the interest started. And I always thought, even kind of held out hope into those early puberty years of, I'll be short enough, or I'll stop growing and I'll be light enough. And I am a thin guy, but I'm still nowhere near jockey weight by any means. So I think.
Were you thinking about becoming a jockey? I mean, let's say that you were 5'6". I mean, let's say that your physical limitation, not limitations, but because of your height, if that hadn't been a hindrance to you, do you think that's something that you would have wanted to go into?
I think I would have. I think knowing what I know now and kind of at the age I am now, a little bit more maturity, I think I would have tried. I don't necessarily think that I would have had maybe the mental fortitude that it takes, or the also the riding skill that it takes, to be a successful jockey. I'm sure I maybe would have ridden races if I was jockey size, but I think I'm past the point of telling myself I would have been some Eddie Arcaro or something like that. I think I probably would have rode. I would have been nowhere near my father. I know that. But yes, if I was that size, I would have tried. I don't think I would have succeeded. If anything, I think being 6'1" was a huge blessing, because it led me kind of to the path I'm on now, and it's my own path in a sense. And I think when I hit like 15, 16 years old, I started to realize, okay, well, you're not going to be a jockey. You're going to have to be something else. And thought about being a trainer, and then saw that those guys have to, wake up at 3:30 in the morning every day for 365 days a year, and said, okay, there's other things to do as well. And I remember shadowing actually a Bloodstock Agent at the Saratoga Select Sale, and watching the process of what he was doing, and I said, what, I think this is what I want to do, kind of sourcing the next talent or scouting the next talent, and I became infatuated with that. And honestly, from maybe college years on, everything I did was in going towards becoming a Bloodstock Agent, and being involved with picking out horses and buying horses.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. You're just flowing right into my questions. You must be looking at my rundown here. So, talk very briefly about the Irish National Stud Breeding Course and Australia. Listen, this is like the 60 minutes of horse racing here. I do deep dives. I do my research here. So, talk to people a little bit about those two items on the bottom of the screen there.
For sure. So, I think what initially happened was, probably some part of my punk 17-year-old brain thought, I'm not going to go to college. I'm just going to go straight to the racetrack, right? And my parents swiftly put that to rest and said, listen, you need to go get a 4-year degree, and get a degree that, honestly, they didn't want me to get a degree in equine science or go pre-vet or anything like that, or involving horses. They wanted me to get a degree so that, knowing that if I went to the racetrack and I, for some reason decided that wasn't the path for me, that I would have something else, as a major, to fall back on. So I got a business degree, I think in business management, but every second of those 4 years was spent thinking about how I'm going to get back to horses and the racetrack. And I actually went to University of Delaware, which is about 10 minutes down the road from Delaware Park.
The Blue Hens.
The Fighting Blue Hens, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, fierce, ferocious mascot. But
in the NCAA tournament, I believe, correct?
Villanova's going down. Don't worry.
Okay.
So,
whoa, whoa! Throwing shade. We just lost every viewer from Philadelphia, I think. Okay, go ahead.
But when I graduated, from UDEL, I thought, what is the next step? To really better my chances of, kind of not just furthering my racing knowledge, but also, I realized I hadn't really spent any time on a stud farm or on the breeding side of the industry, and spent some time considering going to Lexington and working for a stud farm there. Obviously, Lexington, kind of the breeding capital of our industry here in the United States. But even took it a step further and said, you know what? Well, why don't I, if you can work with horses hands-on, if you have the skills to work with horses, horses are horses, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in Europe or Australia or wherever else you might be. And honestly, if you can work with horses, you can kind of travel the world and get that, global experience, if you will. So I applied for the Irish National Stud course, kind of researched what it was, saw that it was a 6-month, course in the breeding industry. It was it was considered like a graduate program, and applied and was lucky enough to get in, and went to Ireland and had a great 6 months on the course there. I think it was 2014, I want to say, and made some exceptional friends. Also learned quite a bit about each 2 weeks on the course, you go to a different part of the stud farm, and then you kind of cycle back through it again. So, 2 weeks you'll work with yearlings, and then 2 weeks you'll work in the breeding shed, and then 2 weeks you'll work with foaling. So it really exposed you to all facets of the game. And it showed me, okay, this is from, step one, the mating, right? Breeding the horse. Yeah. And then, step 2, foaling, step 3, raising a yearling, and then, on to sending that yearling off to to go be broken to become a racehorse. So it kind of gave me that grounding that I felt like I needed. And from there, I kind of kept the train rolling, and I got a job down at Arrowfield Stud in Australia, and was able to do more of the same down there, but just in another country as well, and travel Australia a little bit. So I was about 22, 23 years old, and working with horses, and honestly, life was a little bit simpler back then. But those were great times, and I have fond memories of that, but eventually got homesick and came back home to the States.
Yeah, actually, Australia's on my bucket list. I'd love to go there, and this is sort of a neat time of year because every time I go on Twitter, see these cute, foal pictures of foals being born, and like this foal is literally 3 hours old. I just saw one today, like 3 hours old. I mean, it's just really cool. Especially, I'm the total opposite. I'm a suburban kid. I did not grow up on a farm. First time I actually ever went to a racetrack was when I was 16 years old. So we're on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, but we both love horse racing. That's the cool thing about this sport. It just brings people together from different backgrounds. So after all that, you got a great opportunity to be with West Point Thoroughbreds, a fantastic organization. Talk very briefly about what you do with West Point, and then your transition on to other things as well.
For sure. So I really did see it as a great opportunity to come home. I was starting to get a little homesick. But to be honest as well, when I applied for the job, if I didn't get it, I probably would have stayed in Australia a little bit longer. I'm sure I would have came home eventually, but I was familiar with West Point, obviously because their partnership has been around so long, and my father actually rode a significant amount of horses for them. He was riding kind of first call for Kieran McLaughlin, who was, kind of West Point's main trainer at the time, and some big victories for them. So I was familiar with West Point. And applied for the job, and was lucky enough to for them to give me that opportunity. And I was with them for about 6 years, and I was in a sales and partner relations role. And it exposed me to even more elements of the business that I was looking to be exposed to, being able to go to, sales like this down in Ocala, listen to their team and their Bloodstock team and learn from them. And then also deal with a variety of different owners, owners who would own a tiny little piece of one horse, or owners who would own big chunks of, 20 different horses. So it kind of accelerated that growth process, if you will, about, responding to owners, getting a lot of different inquiries from owners, different questions, different concerns, different comments, different personalities, right? You get some people are very tightly wound and every little thing matters so much. And some people that are very laid back and hey, how's the horse doing? Great. Sure. Whatever. And
wouldn't
you
have anything to do with the millions of dollars that are being spent. Would it?
But you experience all of it, right? With a partnership, you get all kinds of people. And then also you get all kinds of results, right? You get the day that the horse got a terrible ride and how to deal with owners with that. And, the day that the horse ran great, the day the horse ran up the track last, so it really exposed me to all those different experiences, and kind of, like I said, accelerated that growth process. And it was a great 6 years with West Point, and really valued the time I spent there.
So then you decide to venture out on your own as a Bloodstock agent. Also, you're a jockey agent. We'll talk about a little bit as well.
That came later, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, right. Yeah. So you're down. Let's talk about where you are right now, and then we'll transfer that into what that has to do with Adelphi. So you're down at the 2-year-old sales in Ocala. What characteristics do you look for most, whether it be for Adelphi or other people as well, at the sales? Then compare a little bit of what you might look for at the yearling sales versus the 2-year-old sales.
For sure, and it's a great question because it's very much different characteristics that you would be looking for, and different things, honestly, that kind of influence price on a horse, and price is such an important part of the equation because my job as a Bloodstock agent is to really try to meet the client's needs. What is the client trying to accomplish? And what is, the client's goals in the industry? What, where's the client looking to be? What type of horse are they looking to buy? And honestly, it's not the best question, but, what is their budget as well? And, my job is to gear the experience they're looking to have to the money they're looking to spend. And there's a variety of factors at a yearling sale versus a 2-year-old sale that influence that, right? So, for me, it's about trying to get to know my clients the best I can to achieve their goals. And I'd say, when it comes back to the question of what are the differing, characteristics, from these sales. I like to say that your money maybe carries you a little bit further in terms of pedigree, at the yearling sales, because think at the yearling sales, these horses are not broken yet. They're not accustomed to a rider on their back. They're not even accustomed to having a saddle on their back quite yet. So it's something where the only opportunity you're going to get to analyze them physically is on the end of that shank and walking, back and forth in a path and looking at their conformation, looking how they walk, how do their legs track, I like to say, as they come towards you, as they walk away from you. And then also trying to see, evaluating that physical specimen and then comparing it to the pedigree and saying, okay, does this physical match what the pedigree says the horse should be? So at the yearling sales, that's the true focus. And you don't get a ton to go on other than the walk and the physical and the page. And that really does gear price at the yearling sales. I always tell people that our pedigree nerds, if you will, or really enjoy, pedigree analysis, that, probably a yearling sale is for you. Whereas the sale I'm at now here in Ocala at the OBS sale, the OBS March sale, is a 2-year-old in training sale. So the horses all go out there on the track and they breeze either a furlong or sometimes they breeze a quarter mile. They breeze 2 furlongs. And that is a timed work. That is a work that is put up to slow motion analysis, data analysis, stride length analysis.
Unbelievable.
And we're down here dissecting what this horse does in a very short span of time on one day on a track here at OBS. And it's honestly, it reminds me a little bit of like the NFL combine, if you will.
I was just going to say, it's like the 40-yard dash or what. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Exactly. And sometimes we are so harsh on these horses for what they did in a span of 30 seconds, to 45 seconds, in the span of a breeze. And you got to keep in mind, they're 2-year-olds. They're young. They're still somewhat immature mentally, somewhat immature physically, some of them. So you need to be able to balance an analysis on that breeze with, okay, where's the horse at physically? And then, to be honest, at the 2-year-old sales, pedigree goes out the window a little bit. You'll see horses by sires that you've never heard of that breeze really fast, breeze really well, breeze really fast, and they make a ton of money. Whereas that horse maybe sold as a yearling for $10,000, and now they made $250 today, or something like that. So it's the 2-year-old sales.
Good horses can come from anywhere, right? That's what they say. And sorry to interrupt you. There's a great question here from my two. If you just go towards the bottom, when you're looking at bloodlines, how much you sort of touch on this a little bit. How much your decision is based on gut instinct versus your nuts and bolts critical evaluation of the pedigree? Great question, my two.
Yeah, fantastic question. And honestly, it's an ongoing debate at times for people, right? It's I've been trying to trust my gut instincts more. I think would be my answer to the question. But that being said, it doesn't mean that I'm just taking the sales catalog here and I'm just chucking it out the window. But
how many horses we got there, Joe, in that catalog? About
there's about 600 in the sale here or so, and we sold about half of them today, and the other half will go tomorrow.
Again, any questions for Joe? Any questions for Joe, folks? We have a lot of people watching. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer. We'll try to get as many as you can. I'm sorry, go ahead. There's 300 been sold, and there's more going to be sold later.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we're halfway point of the sale, obviously. But that being said, I've been down here, for the past week or so because they'll have the breeze show where the horses breeze, and that was 3 days long. We actually had a weather delay. There was a really awful weather day down here. There was actually a tornado that went through Ocala, but everybody's fine. But so they delayed the breeze show one day, and then we had a full day of looking at the horses on the shank, and then today was the first selling day. So, but honestly, I think gut instinct on the physical has become a more important part to me necessarily than finding out what half sibling did something somewhere or what maybe the mare's been bred back to. That's a piece of the equation as well, especially if you're looking at fillies and potential residual value. Then I'm looking more at the pedigree, but it's a little bit of a case-by-case basis. But I've been trying to go with my first instincts and my gut feeling a little bit more than what the pedigree page is telling me.
Yeah, I was at Ocala for the first time in December to see Salivo and Magistrate. Now we can say now when they do. By the way, I saw a 9 4/5 breeze a few days ago with a horse, which is crazy. Where are they actually doing their their 1 furlong or 2 furlong breezes in Ocala?
So they're at the Ocala Breeder sales grounds and facilities. So they actually have a track here on the grounds as well,
Okay.
at the sales pavilion.
Okay.
But the interesting part about it, and something that almost makes the process a little trickier, is that they breeze on a synthetic surface.
Yeah,
It's not a
I always find that
yeah.
strange.
It's not a dirt surface. If anything, synthetics probably play a little more towards turf.
Yeah.
So you do have to be a little careful at times with, kind of really truly evaluating a horse, and how they move on the synthetic versus, okay, well, maybe this horse has a dirt pedigree, and what's he going to move like on the dirt, or is he going to breeze, all right on the dirt? But you have to also build relationships with consigners that you can hopefully trust, and maybe get some indication from them, because obviously they raised the horse from the fall all the way up to the spring, and now they're trying to breeze the horse and sell the horse. So obviously they're going to know the horse a bit better than you, and you need to have some relationships with consigners that you can trust, and get some additional feedback at times.
Well, right. Let's talk about some of the Adelphi horses. By the way, we've got Daryl. They're all coming out of the woodwork. Went to school with your dad. Went to West Junior High School. There you go. And was talking. Let's see how you want to become a jockey. And anyway, great to see you on the show, Daryl. Thanks for joining the show. Really, there's the first one in case you didn't get a chance to read that there. But Daryl, thanks for joining the show. Really, really appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the Adelphi horses that you bought last year, and then anything. I know you don't want to give away any secrets or anyone you're looking at in particular right now for Adelphi, but I'm going to go ahead and bring up very quickly, just take about 5 minutes, Joe, and then we'll go ahead to our 10 minutes to post and wrap up the show here. Again, we're with Joe Migliore, Bloodstock Agent for Adelphi Racing Club, also Jockey Agent as well for Trevor McCarthy. Hopefully we'll have a little time to talk about that, but if not, I just want to say the tremendous job you're doing, and Trevor's doing, just outstanding. His success, and obviously your success as well. So congratulations on that end as well. Let me go ahead and bring up this screen here. This is the Adelphi website, because two of the horses that I've partially owned, I believe you picked both of them out. I'm sorry for not knowing for sure these two, one colt and one filly. Very briefly, let's talk about a Magistrate, who is right here on the screen. Now, this is obviously an older picture. He's bigger, stronger, etc. Talk a little bit about what you saw in Magistrate last year. Again, this is the Tapper colt. Tapper, this is his first crop. That are now 2-year-olds.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so he was bought from the Keeneland September sale, the Keeneland September yearling sale, which is honestly, I think the biggest horse sale in the world, period. They sell about 4,000 yearlings over a 2.5-week span. So that sale is very much a marathon, not a sprint. You're looking at tons of horses over an extended period of time. And he was a colt that we were talking before about that gut instinct, right? And the second that he came out of the stall, and I kind of saw him put his head down and walk out of the shed row and walk towards us, just right away struck me as just a gorgeous head on him, and also a colt that had a lot of size and length and scope. And then when you talk about comparing it to the pedigree page, right? He's by Tapper. It's Tapper's first crop of horses. So this will be the first group of Tapperets, to hit the racetrack and race. But it's that Tappet sire line, and as you can just see from the photo, it doesn't take a lot to notice or to figure out that he's very much kind of stamped by that sire line, right? There's a very unique look that the Tappet sire line puts into horses. They're typically routers. They're typically horses who relish a distance of ground, a mile and above. And they also always have this kind of lovely length and scope and athleticism to go with it. And he just was able to carry himself with a lot of class, put his head down and have this big athletic walk, and just for me was a horse that I really was drawn to straight off the bat. My gut instinct right away was that I was attracted to the horse. And then I remember calling Matt and going through the short list like we do, periodically throughout every sale we go, my job is to kind of, you look at the wholesale, you narrow that down to, maybe 20% of the horses. You look at them all again, and you narrow that down to an even shorter list. So, he was one that was right at the top of my, conversations with Matt, right off the bat. And for me was honestly thinking that, I would maybe have to pay a little bit more for him than I did, was thrilled to get him at the price point, that I did. That's kind of the rare, pleasant surprise from sales, instead of getting outbid, getting a horse, kind of under the budget you maybe had allotted.
I think it was $75K. Do I remember that correctly? Is it 75?
Correct. It was $75,000, and look, we bought him from a great farm as well. Where Tappert stands, Gainesway Farm, probably the most reputable, one of the most reputable, commercial stud farms in Lexington.
Been there, met his father, and met Tappert as well. Well, what a facility that is. Sean Tugel, by the way, shout out to Sean Tugel, who's I'm sure you know who he is, obviously, there at Gainesway.
For sure. And a lot of great people that work at Gainesway, and just the most reputable farm that you can find. On top of that, probably helped the equation a little bit that, I'm a New York guy, and his sire won the Belmont Stakes, which is, probably my favorite race, that we watch each year. And honestly, I was able to, see, I see this called this morning, actually. It was kind of downpouring rain here in Ocala, but he is currently at Kinsman Farm.
Okay, let's go ahead. Give us the scoop. What do you see?
Yeah, so he we sent him down, obviously, to be broken and pre-trained, if you will, at Kinsman Farm, which is here in Ocala, and a lovely pre-trainer here, Emily Dawson, that's just done a great job with him. And, so it was actually right when we got there, the set was meant to go out. Began a torrential downpour, and wasn't able to get such great video content, but was able to then, when the rain stopped, go see him on the end of the shank again. And I was thrilled to see that he's actually gotten a little bit taller as well, and really strengthened up, and just still all the same good things that I see, all the same good impressions. He's obviously going to Chris. Yeah, go ahead.
Was it a 2-minute lick, Joe? Do you know what kind of exercise was it?
No, so I think with the weather this morning and everything, it was just out there, just a quick jogging this morning. It was, meant to maybe do a little bit more, but this Florida rainstorms can be, 1 hour of complete downpour.
That's good. So he can handle the mud. We want to make sure that happens too, because I hear once in a while it can rain in New York, right? So there you go.
Right, but then then the sun was out 45 minutes later. So
so he's looking good, and he's growing and developing. I had a chance to meet him down there in December. What a sweetheart too, and went right up to him. Really nice disposition. Who knows what's going to happen here, but I like a lot of things that about probably a late developer, right? And Christophe Clement, he's going to be going to. Very patient guy. Excellent. Congratulations, by the way, to the Clement family as well on their marriage there with Acacia Courtney. Very exciting.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Clements. I heard it was a fantastic wedding. You'll give me some details later. All the scoop about that. But probably later in the fall. Everything goes well. Just from a handicapping standpoint, probably one of those like 7 furlong mile kind of races in late fall at Belmont. It actually might be at Aqueduct this year because of the construction situation. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that would be logical, right? If things go smoothly.
For sure. And look, he still gives me all those impressions of he's going to be a horse who improves as a 3-year-old, a horse who relishes a further distance of ground. And when you think of the summer 2-year-old racing, it's very much kind of glued to, 6 furlong dirt sprints. Sure. Yes, we do run some turf racing, and things like that are at a longer distance. But, I think with him, time is his friend. I think, that fall kind of debut start point is a very realistic goal, and probably what's going to be best for him. I was actually out there with Miguel and Acacia this morning. They were able to see him as well, and both very happy too. And yeah, so he'll be shipping up to, in all likelihood, Christoph, maybe in the, the late summer, and then be ready for, a debut, hopefully in the fall.
Terrific. Now let's talk about this beauty here. Let me bring this one up. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. There we go. This is Salivo. There she is. This is Street Sense filly, Joe. You picked her out as well, correct?
Yes, she was also.
Let's talk about her a little bit. A lot of people are very excited about her. Going to Ray Handel, much more precocious based on breeding and other things. Probably meant for grass, potentially up to a mile, maybe a sprinter. We'll see. I've heard a lot of buzz from Matt Cutera and other people about this beautiful filly who's been down in Ocala as well. Not at Kinsman, at boy, I'm showing a blank. I'm sorry, where is
At
she at now?
King's Equine. She's at King's Equine.
King's Equine. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
And
which is
Raul Reyes, I believe. Is that correct?
Raul Reyes
There you go.
is farm, and Raul does a tremendous job. He's also a consigner selling horse, one of the consigner selling horses this week here at OBS. And I was able to see her this morning as well. I was able to get to King's Equine a little bit earlier than I was Kinsman, and this was before the rain, so she was able to go out there, and I believe she galloped a mile today, on the track there, and just loved her disposition and her energy towards training. She was just very willing. You could tell she knows her job, and she was out there, and 2-year-olds, babies that, weren't sent towards the sale. At this point, they're still kind of galloping in pairs, one on the inside, one on the outside, and kind of going as a team. And, they haven't been asked to really set down and fully breeze yet, but she is so professional about the way she gallops. And like I said, gallops with great vigor, great energy. And then just coming off the track, seemed very unfazed by things, knows her job, knows her routine. And for her, it's a very different body type and physical in terms of her strengths versus the Tapper colt, where he's kind of long and scopy and, covers a ton of ground. She's a little bit more kind of compact, very big muscular shoulder and muscular hind end, which leans to the suggestion that she probably will be a sprinter miler type of filly. Looking like maybe she'll lean towards grass, but not impossible that, that she could be good on the dirt as well. I mean, I like to say, and a common phrase in our game, but, people have opinions, horses have the facts. She'll probably tell us when she gets to Ray,
Exactly.
and Ray, Ray will observe that as well, exactly what she's best at. But I would think, sprinter miler and one that should come to hand a little bit sooner, than the other ones.
By the way, sorry, I wanted to keep that on the screen. Hold on just 1 second. I want to bring this back. By the way, Joe, again, I want to be very respectful of your time here at Long Day. Could you go till 9 o'clock your time, another 23 minutes?
Absolutely.
We got a lot of people asking questions on the screen that I'd like to get to, and I'd like to finish my 10 minutes of post. Is that okay with you? If it's not, that's absolutely fine.
No, that just
all right.
We got all the time in the world. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I like about Salivo. This right here. Now I'm not this right here. This muscle. I am not. Listen, I'm not a horse whisperer. Okay, but I love the buttocks on this horse. I love the hind end you talked about. And I'll tell you what also I liked, and only a few people have been able to see her in person, like myself and yourself and Matt and whatever, is when I saw her breeze. Boy, she was focused. She had her head down. She wasn't distracted. She had a horse to her inside when I saw her down in Ocala. That was sort of looking around and all goofy, and she was just like laser focused on her job, which is very important for a young horse, I think. Don't you agree?
Without a doubt. And so that muscle is called the gaskin, and that is
gasket.
Yeah, and that is a very important muscle in terms of generating power with their hind legs and generating speed. So, sometimes if you see a horse that has that big, I call it that kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger bicep looking gaskin, that's a good sign. And a horse that doesn't have much gaskin, you would worry a little bit, okay, maybe they don't have enough strength in that hind leg to kind of push off and propel themselves forward. So, she does have a tremendous gaskin and hind end. And again, those are kind of sprinter-ish qualities at times. And in terms of her focus, that's exactly what I observed this morning as well. Just very attentive to her job and wants to do her job, which is a big thing. Because I've had some horses before that aren't too interested in being racehorses. So, it's a good thing.
I know you don't make these decisions, but Matt sent out a video, said hopefully everything working well. She could move up to Ray Handel's barn, New York, as early as April. So in a few weeks here, potentially.
For sure. Yeah, April, late April, early May would seem like the current trajectory. Obviously, things could change on a day-to-day basis. But at the moment, I would agree that, yes, late April, early May seems like when she may head north.
Terrific. Let's take here a few questions from the viewers. San Francisco Sound. San Francisco, thanks for joining the show. Some of the best young sires, first few crops you see. I could name a few, obviously, but you're the Bloodstock Agent, so I'll let you answer that question.
Well, look, I think, the obvious answer to everybody right off the bat is, the first crop of gun runners have just completely blown away everyone's expectations, and obviously, the increase in his stud fee and all the plethora of stakes winners, that he's had in that first crop have shown that. And immediately the market has adjusted where, if you want to buy a gun runner, you better bring a big bag of money to the auction ring with you. But he's an obvious one. I'd say, two others to really mention that maybe have a few more crops that I'm big believers in, and they're starting to become a bit more popular as well. I would say Not This Time is a very popular young stallion who's just showing that he really is going to make it. Talked about potentially breeding a mare to him and was told, no, you can't even get into him. He's in such high demand. So Not This Time is definitely one to focus on. And then another one for me personally, which, I think he's also in that kind of Not This Time at 45, and Liam's, the next one I think would be Liam's Map, who's a sire I'm a big believer in, and he's currently, I think, at 40,000 over at Lane's End. And he's one that I think you'll continue to see that success as well. And I think the fee will continue to rise and the popularity will continue to rise. So just a couple to mention that are off to great starts.
By the way, Not This Time broke my heart in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, just losing the Classic Umpire, I believe, at Santa Anita. One of the, if my memory serves me correctly, one of the best Breeders' Cup Juveniles in a long time. Very fast fig for both of them. Yes. Really exciting race. I'm sure you remember the race. Daryl's got a question. When purchasing a racehorse, what is the insurance like? Is it similar to insuring a car, for example?
Maybe not so similar to insuring a car, and probably a little bit more expensive than insuring a car.
Very briefly, again, you don't have to take too long on these questions. Be respectful to the viewers and yourself, because we got a lot of questions, but just very briefly.
Yeah, so very briefly, so you can insure a racehorse with mortality insurance. There's no performance insurance or just general injury insurance. The one thing you can insure a racehorse for is in the event that they die, and typically you can assign a value that you're comfortable with and that the insurance company's comfortable with as well.
My good friend Jim's got a question. Jim's from Buffalo, by the way. James, he's from Buffalo. When looking at potential purchase, does the state where the bred make a difference? For example, New York breds versus other states. Obviously, the most expensive horses in general are bred in Kentucky, but New York versus, let's say, a Florida bred or Pennsylvania bred, etc.
Certainly, it's a great question, and the answer is yes. That is a factor without a doubt, and does make a difference. I think it depends on who your buyer is. If I was to have an owner that says, I live in Pennsylvania and I'd love to go to parks and I'm at parks all the time, yeah, I'm going to look for a Pennsylvania bred for that guy. And me, I'm a little bit biased, and obviously just a large amount of the people I deal with are New York guys and race in New York. So New York breds, I put a big emphasis myself on. And honestly, the one sale that I probably work the hardest, focus the hardest on raising money for, and buy the most at each year is the Saratoga New York bred sale. I think it was very close to being the leading buyer at that sale this past summer, and hopefully, can do the same this upcoming summer, just because I have so many clients that race in New York, and being a New York bred is a huge advantage.
Sure. Two quick questions, and then we're going to get to our 10 minutes of post. Number one, and obviously, by the way, if the breeding program is excellent, the purses are most likely going to be excellent. So the purse structure of a certain state, Jim, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this, Joe, but the purse structure of a state you would think would obviously affect the sales price of the state of the horse as well. I mean, if Texas breds obviously can be decent horses, but they don't have the purse structure that New York breds do, for example. So I would assume that plays into a factor. If you were to predict right now, put your genie hat on, who will be the best first crop sire this year for the 2-year-olds that are going to be running? Because I got my wallet here. I'm ready to bet the baby races at Toga and other places. I want to know who that first crop sire is going to be out of the box before everyone else knows, Joe. So fill us in here.
Look, it is a tremendous year in terms of this group of first crop sires. I mean, there's just so many accomplished new stallions. I mean, so many of them that just accomplished so much on the racetrack. And honestly, if you look at this Ocala catalog, it's almost like half the catalog are new sires. So, it's very interesting commercially that it seems like buyers are almost willing. at times to gamble more on a new sire than they are maybe a sire that's slightly proven, or maybe, just like kind of a middle of the road, sire where maybe they're not at the top of the list, like like a Gun Runner or a Tappet or a Into Mischief, but sometimes people are just willing to splurge on a new sire. If you had to put a gun to my head right now, I find Mendelssohn very attractive. Been pretty impressed,
Wow.
By what I've seen on the track by some of those at the Breeze Show this week. But that being said, this is just the first 2-year-old sale of really 4 major 2-year-old sales. So who knows? Maybe there's some City Lights around the corner. Maybe there's some Taprets.
There you go.
There was a big selling Tapper today, actually, that breezed very well.
Ooh.
But there are maybe 5 or 6 of them that have a real right to become a top-end stallion based on their own pedigrees and what they accomplished on the racetrack. And it's going to be a hell of a battle for the leading first crop sire.
And we've seen some interesting Euro breeding. Even like Stern is a Australian horse I've seen in the PPs, more recently as well. So it's fascinating. By the way, the Mendelssohn colts and fillies, dirt or turf. Sorry, just a total guess. What do you think they're going to be more leaning towards? Because that horse could run on both, obviously.
It's tough because he was so versatile himself, and then you look at his his sibling, his half siblings, Into Mischief and Beholder, and then you think, okay, maybe Dirt, but Into Mischiefs can do anything themselves. Yeah. Mendelssohn kind of did anything. Obviously, Leslie's Lady, just a tremendous blue hen broodmare that she threw just exceptional progeny, and they have a right to do anything. Those Mendelssohn.
Well, they were obviously they're going to be very well meant, and Mendelssohn was in great hands, obviously, for a long time. We have a few other questions, but I want to ask you, bring up again, I mentioned that you're a jockey agent for Trevor. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this. Tell us just how that came about, your relationship with Trevor, and also where he might be riding this summer, because I was curious to know that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, look, it's the role of a jockey's agent is something that I've always looked at myself and had knowledge of. Obviously, he's following my father's career and him speaking about the agents that he had. He wasn't always the easiest on his agents, maybe, but he had several of them through his career. And look, it's something where I think I have a very good understanding, because growing up as a jockey's son, what a jockey needs and what a jockey expects from his agent, and how an agent's supposed to conduct his business. And I never really seriously considered doing it until maybe the past year or two, when I started looking at it and kind of looking at the landscape of it, and seeing my kind of bloodstock career starting, and realizing, okay, I spent a lot of time at horse sales, but in between those horse sales, I spent a lot of time, kind of just at the racetrack, and
this helps too, right?
Yeah. I'm at the racetrack just as much as anybody, especially in the mornings, and very capable of doing this job is what I realized. And honestly, I got to the point, felt comfortable that I could do both jobs at the same time. And then came the hard part of, kind of trying to identify a talented rider that could be available. And I've always thought the world of Trevor. Trevor rode for clients of mine on the bloodstock end, before I ever even reached out to him about being his agent. And when I saw him go to California last year, I kind of said to myself, and to no fault of his own, but I said, listen, I kind of know the landscape in California is struggling a little bit right now. There's not as many, horses out there. It's harder to fill races. There's a lot of short fields, right? 5, 6, 7 horse fields. There's a lot of guys in that room out there. And honestly, East Coast guys, no matter who they are, have always kind of struggled to go west and break in and kind of do well. So I kind of had it in the back of my head of, I'm going to watch him from out there. I've total belief in his talent and his ability. But let's just see how it goes. And if it's not going well, maybe I'll give him a call and make a pitch. And I don't think it went as well as he wanted it to go, obviously, and was able to reach out to him and talk to him about coming home, and just very grateful that he gave me the shot. It was a big risk that he took, taking a guy who's never been a jock's agent before. But he gave me that chance. And I, at the start of the winter, we said, look, the goal is to kind of reestablish your identity here in New York. And if we can be in the top 5 in the standings at the Aqueduct Winter Meeting, that'd be great. And now I think both of us will sit here and tell you we really hope somehow we could be the leading rider by the end of this 2 weeks coming up. And, been fighting for leading rider in kind of a great battle with Dylan Davis, who's an exceptional young rider, and also Kendrick Carmouche is very much in the picture as well. And kind of a three-pronged battle that's going to come right down to the last day, in my opinion. And it's been a great winter. We've had tremendous success. So thankful to all the trainers that, have supported us. We've worked really hard. We've breezed a lot of horses. We've been out there a lot of really cold mornings, and look, whether we win the title or not, it's been a great winter. Kind of getting Trevor reestablished in New York. And to answer your final question, we're staying in New York year round. I know there's a lot of big names that are coming this way, and some names from Florida that are coming back north. But the two of us really pride ourselves on working hard and doing it the right way. And I think we got that mindset from both of our fathers, who were also riders. And I got a plan. I joke with him, but I got a plan, and we're going to make it work. And trust me, even if, there's some tough months in the summertime, I know we're going to be making some noise throughout the year.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's some guy named Flavian Pratt, I heard, is coming. Boy, that jockey, Colin. And by the way, Umberto Rispoli is an excellent jockey as well. He's going through a little bit of tough time out there with getting mounts, but I mean, he had a run there where he was on fire as well in California. So there are some really, but that jocks room, as if it wasn't tough enough, is going to be is crazy good. So we wish you and Trevor a lot of luck, but knowing the work that both you guys put in, there's no reason why if he gets the opportunity. I mean, you got to have the talent, right? I mean, if he's constantly riding 50 to 1, you got to have the horse. If he's riding 50 to 1 shots all day, I mean, you can only expect so much. But hopefully he'll continue to get the support that he's gotten from this winter, and he'll carry it forward. All right, Joe, you ready for our famous 10 minutes to post?
Let's do it.
All right, so we got a banner here. I developed this to add with my guests. They enjoy it. Let's bring it up here. 10 minutes to post. 10 minutes to post. These are going to be 10 rapid fire questions, Joe, mainly horse racing, a few not. These are supposed to be meant to be fun. You can take 5 seconds to answer the question. You can take 1 minute. You're done. Your dance floor, whatever you'd like to do. Don't feel the need to go into great detail. Here we go. What was the first moment you fell in love with horse racing?
Oh God, it's a little bit of a tough one because there's a lot of early
These
memories.
aren't going to be easy questions. What are you going to throw a bunch of softballs at you? Come on now.
I will say, okay, I'll give you a specific race even. It was the 1997 Go for Wand. My dad rode a filly called Hidden Lake, and it was up in Saratoga. It was a grade 1 at the time, and it got in a thrilling stretch battle. You can pull it up. It's all over YouTube. The 97 Go for Wand, and thrilling stretch battle with a filly and a tongue twister, but called Flat Fleet Feet.
Yep.
And that was a race where she was a heavy favorite. She was expected to win, but the other filly really tested her, even got by her mid-stretch, and she was able to come back and win. And I actually remember watching the race with my mother, and my mother kind of turning away when she got past and kind of thinking she was going to be beaten. And I remember her coming back and getting her nose on the wire and just watching. It just was a tremendous show from a race mare that she knew her job and she knew she wanted to fight back and get that win. And that has to be probably the
Seven fillies accepted this mile.
You asked for it.
Let's meet the field.
Should we watch it? Here we go. We'll watch the end here
third.
with sound.
Shoop now gets a nudge from Jorge Chavez to stay closer. It's another 3 back to Feasibility Study, who's called on for her run. Then Clear Mandate, Scenic Point. My Flag is still trailing the field. At Flat Fleet Feet to confront Hidden Lake as they approach the top of the stretch, and they will arrive at the top of the stretch together. Flat Fleet Feet on the outside, Hidden Lake toward the inside. Flat Fleet Feet gets ahead in front as they turn for home. Hidden Lake trying to battle back. 5 lengths back to Shoop. Clear Mandate on the far outside, and Feasibility Study. Hidden Lake is not done yet, and she comes roaring back, gamely on the inside. Flat Fleet Feet on the outside. Flat Fleet Feet. Hidden Lake, and Flat Fleet Feet together at the 16th pole. It's Flat Fleet Feet first. Hidden Lake, what a brave filly! She's coming back. Here's the wire. Hidden Lake. Oh.
Wow.
Wow, that one still gives the goosebumps right here.
You got it? I got goosebumps a little bit. Sure. All right, there you go. The beauty of YouTube, right? Incredible.
All the old races.
I guess with that, well, I'm asking, this is more a horse racing event, But if you want to throw that race in, that's fine. But I was thinking more on a larger scale nationally for this question.
Look, that's certainly one of them. I think the first Derby I ever attended is probably towards the top of that list as well. The 2000 Kentucky Derby. My dad rode a horse called Wheel Away. Also for John Kimmel, that was Hidden Lake was John Kimmel, and also Wheel Away was as well. And I remember he hit the front turning for home. For a split second, it wasn't very long because Fusaisi Pegasus had kind of tipped out and rolled by everybody shortly after that. But I actually, believe it or not, I was 9 years old and I met, he wasn't the president yet. He was campaigning at the time. I actually met George Bush at the Derby when I was 9 years old. So there's a few memorable things about that first Derby that have to be my answer.
That's pretty cool. Well, the Belmont this year will be my first Triple Crown race. I know a lot of people like, Howard, you got a horse racing podcast. I've been to a lot of places. I've been to the last 4 years. I just didn't have a chance. I'm by the way, a full-time high school math teacher, Joe, if you know. So obviously I'm very busy for the most part of the year, but I've been able to go to Keeneland, Santa Anita, Del Mar. So my next bucket list is out east. So I'm really excited to go to my first Triple Crown race ever at the Belmont this year. Hopefully there'll be a Triple Crown on the line. So that'd be pretty exciting. Bucket list, track, or race day event you'd like to attend in the world you've never been to.
Okay, so I mean, there's several on the flat, right? But it's actually fitting because it's happening right now. But something over jumps that I'm dying to go to is the Cheltenham Racing Festival. And I would give anything to not be at this horse sale right now and be over at Cheltenham. But I'll give that as the answer. Fitting that it's this week, but plenty of things as well. I mean, obviously, something like Royal Ascot. I've always wanted to go to Hong Kong and kind of see, Happy Valley and Shatin. Always be very, very interesting. So I have a few of them, but for this week, we'll go with Cheltenham.
So you've been to the Melbourne Cup then, because you were in Australia.
So I was in Australia, and I didn't go to the Melbourne Cup. It was just a complete.
That's my bucket list right there. It's the race that stops the nation, Joe.
It stopped the nation, but I was in Scone in New South Wales in the Hunter Valley and watched it on a television. But
I hear Australians have. From what I understand, that race that day is it makes the Derby look like a little cocktail party. I hear Australians like to drink some beer and have some fun. That's what I hear.
The only thing open is bars. There's nothing else open. Okay.
Crazy. The best horse you saw at any sale in person, whether they've gone on to win $5 million or maybe they just didn't. Maybe they were the Green Monkey. It didn't quite work out. But is there a horse that you've seen at the sales, in your short time that you were like, wow, just completely blew you away?
So I mean, honestly, there's two of them that come to mind, and they were both obviously, when I was with West Point. The first one would be a horse called Decorated Invader, who just immediately we talked about that kind of gut instinct, first impression thing. And when I remember being up on the hill at Keeneland, kind of those back barns, up high on the hill there, overlooking the training track at Keeneland. And I remember being with, Aaron Birkenhauer and Jeff Lifson, and the three of us looking at horses together. And when he came out, we all kind of just stopped and really just were completely drawn to him, infatuated with him at the time, and ended up buying him. And he ended up being a horse that came very close to winning a Breeders' Cup race as a 2-year-old. Had a nightmare trip that day.
You had to remind me. Well, I think it was 8. Yeah. Oh man, I still remember.
I remind myself.
I think it was 8-1. Steadied, couldn't find room. I couldn't believe I was getting the price. That was Christoph, right?
Christoph as well, and Christoph at the time was still looking for his Breeders' Cup. So it was a lot of painful moments at that day, but he was able to, he was a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old, and just a very exciting horse. And then it was
another one.
Another one, obviously, is the kind of the big star for the Hieronymus and West Point, and just an exceptional job by West Point's Bloodstock agent David and Gordo to select these horses for them, but. Is Flightline. Flightline was at the Saratoga Select Sale. And I remember, kind of doing a partner tour and pulling out some horses that were on the short list. And I remember there was one specific partner that, his question, every horse we pulled out was like, what's wrong with this horse? Right. And what's the negative about this horse? Right. And it was always just a very it's almost a somewhat comical question when you're at the Saratoga Select sale, because there's so many perfect yearlings at this sale, right? And so many big high dollar horses. And I remember standing in front of Fight Night and him going, well, if you had to critique this horse some way, what would you say? And I just was staring at the horses. I can't. I can't critique this horse. So
let's just hope he stay. I mean, I've never been on a horse. 10 times million more about horse flesh than I do. All I've heard from people is like maybe he's just too fast for his own good. I mean, if that's even possible, he's just such. I mean, I've been betting, watching horse racing, following it for I'd say 30 years. I just turned 50 last summer. A good 30 years, and seriously deep diving, pedigrees, everything, handicapping Joe. I'd say a good 20 years. I mean, go Zapper. You could go down the list in terms of just flat out just speed. This horse is just a total freak, and I'd love to see him in the Met Mile. Let's just hope he's there at the Met Mile, because I think the Met Mile. Again, this is more handicapping Joe, but you're a fan also. The Met Mile could be the race of the entire year if if Life is Good can be there, and Flightline. I mean, Speaker's Corner is fan. I mean, the list just goes on and on. That Met Mile could be the race of my lifetime, and it wouldn't even be obviously a Triple Crown race. I mean, it could be unbelievable.
Oh, for sure. It could be the race of the century. If
Jackie's Warrior,
Jackie's Warrior's coming back. If all the right players show up, it could be the best race in my lifetime, for sure. Just hope it materializes, hope it happens. Yeah. But yeah, those are two that came to mind for me.
What advice would you give a young person breaking into the business?
This is a great question. I get this question a lot as well. I mean, look, so, a lot of the time, this industry, if you don't have any connections to this industry, not someone fortunate like me who grew up in it or has, parents that were in prominent roles of it or family members that were in prominent roles, it can be very challenging and very frustrating to try and break in. And it's going to be that much harder to try to get to, maybe a point you want to get to in this game. But the number one piece of advice that I can give anyone, especially if it's to work with horses, it's a little bit different. Maybe if you want to work at the racetrack or, for a racetrack, something like this, a little bit different. But if you want to work hands-on, with horses, to just maintain a positive attitude, continue to work as hard as you can, stay humble, and honestly, it will rise up for you. And it's the young people sometimes that I see that they're frustrated by, maybe they don't have the connections and that they feel like things aren't happening fast enough for them. Just continue to work hard. And that is the most appreciated thing in our game. And people notice it. If you have a positive attitude and you work hard, people will notice that. And yes, it may take a little longer, but it's going to come. And the other thing too, don't be afraid to ask people for help, and don't be afraid to introduce yourself to someone. I love when younger people kind of introduce themselves to me, say who they are, what they're doing, where they're at, because then it's the person that, okay, now you're on my radar and I'd love to help you any way I can, so don't be afraid to introduce yourself and just work hard and be patient.
You got to take a chance. Boy, so many things you just said sound like they're right out of your dad's mouth on America's Day of the Race. Is crazy. Great minds think alike. Okay, I think I know the answer to this question. A horse you bought winning the Derby, or being the agent of the jockey who wins the Derby?
Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble with either Matt or Trevor, one of the two, right?
No, listen, they both understand. Like I told you, we're gonna put you under fire today. One way or not, someone's gonna hate you. No, I'm just kidding. They're gonna love you either way.
Okay, well then I'm gonna spin the answer, and I'm gonna say a horse I bought with Trevor on his back winning the Derby.
Done. Boom. Mic drop. There you go. Mets or Yankees?
Yankees.
Okay. Two other questions, and then we're gonna end the show here. Best go-to restaurant near any particular racetrack in New York, because I'm going out there. I want to have some. I heard Don Pep's, I've heard, has been thrown my way. Right, that's from my good friend Paul Halloran suggested Don Pep's out there that we're going to go. Salivo obviously is a great restaurant in Saratoga, who the horse is named after. So I'll be going to Salivo. I'm sure there's a zillion others. I know you're going to get more people upset now. You can name a few if you'd like, if you don't want to name one.
Well, look, all right, you've already drilled like two of the top ones. Okay. If you go to Aqueduct, absolutely, Don Pep's is the number one on the list. Saratoga, obviously, Salivo is just an exceptional place. There's so many great restaurants in Saratoga, though. There's honestly so many that I can't even start to name a few, because you're going to end up leaving some out. But honestly, the vast majority of restaurants in Saratoga a great place to eat at. It's just about where you can get a reservation,
Yeah.
honestly, and make reservations early if you are going to be traveling to Saratoga, maybe your first time this upcoming meet.
How about
Tons
that
of great things. That's a great one as well. That's it. So if you're working towards Belmont now, I'll give two more near Belmont that are my kind of favorite, local joints, and they're actually very close to each other as well. I love an Italian spot called Poppy's Place, right under the train station in Floral Park. Cozy little one-room, restaurant, great Italian food, and then a restaurant actually that just opened up couple years ago. It's called the Harrison, in a similar location, right near the train station in Floral Park, and that's all sorts of different food, kind of a American style cuisine, if you will, but great vibe in the Harrison as well. In Floral Park.
We got you on record. This is on me on YouTube, so I'll try to check out as many of those as I can. 3 more quick questions, then we're going to end the show. Again, Joe, really appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully you enjoyed the experience here on the All About Adelphi, the second episode. Other than your dad, favorite athlete growing up?
Oh, so I mean, it's got to be Henrik Lundqvist. I'm a huge New York Rangers fan, huge hockey fan. I'd say if you had to pick my number one team that I focus on and root for, it's the Rangers. And it's just an absolute shame that we didn't get the guy a cup. A great disservice. But I was actually at the game the other night where they retired his jersey, and wow. I didn't cry, I swear.
That's awesome. All right, now last question, and you'll understand why I'm asking this question, but you do need to explain to our viewers why I'm asking you this question. You ready? Which would you rather have pre-flop, pocket eights or 10 jack suited? And by the way, I'm a Hold'em player as well, so if we somehow hook up in New York, you are personally invited to my home game in New York while I'm at Saratoga, although you probably just take all of our money. But anyway.
No, come on.
Talk about why I asked you that question, and you can answer that question too if you want.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to answer the question, but it's maybe a little complex, but it kind of depends on your position, right? I mean,
there we
go.
but that's a whole other pod, Joe. That's a whole other pod.
Gun to my head, I'm going to go with Jack 10 suited, just because set mining is not the, you want to try to flop that 8 on the flop, and the odds are going to say that it's not as likely as maybe finding a nice hand with the Jack 10 suited, and maybe you're a little bit more disguised with the Jack 10 suited as well.
Sure. But if you're looking for the straight, the 8's a blocker, so I don't know if that might be a problem, right?
If it's pocket 8s versus Jack 10 suited, now we're getting real interesting here.
There you go. See, I threw the blocker. I threw a little vocab your way. I'm trying to show you that I belong a little bit in the Hold'em world. Tell everyone what you've accomplished, because I didn't know that. It's awesome. I read that.
Well, look, I believe it or not, this somehow came up at the sales grounds today. Somebody asked me if I was playing poker lately, and honestly, the answer is that I haven't played poker seriously in probably 2 or 3 years, to be honest with you. And I kind of liken it to, you have a knife, right? And you sharpen the knife, right? And you can make the knife really sharp where it's kind of dangerous, or you can let the knife get dull and maybe it's not that dangerous at all. I would say once upon a time, maybe back, what would it be? When did I go deep in the main? It was probably 5 years ago now, 5 or 6 years ago. But
finished 97th that was in the main event, World Series main event. Finished 97th. Yeah. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it was a hell of a run. I actually won a satellite at Foxwoods to get into the main because obviously buying in for $10,000 is not something I can do. But
what was that payday, if you don't mind me asking, for 97th?
97th, I think, was $61,000, $62,000. So. Yeah, I just paid off my student loan. It's great. Everybody always goes, "What did you do with the money?" I just paid off my student loan. That's all I did. Didn't do anything exciting. I didn't buy a car.
You're so busy now. I mean, you don't possibly have time to obviously play seriously. But you play a tournament once in a while? Or, I mean, you've just completely taken it out of your life, basically?
So I used to love to play like these 2-day, 3-day tournaments. I used to go to Borgata all the time and play, and they have their tournament series. And I had some nice cashes and would love to play tournament poker, really study tournament poker and kind of, what you're supposed to be doing. And like I said, back then the knife was sharp, right? And was very, very, I wasn't great, but I was pretty good, disciplined and a good player. Now I remember those things I learned, but they're not super fresh in my head. And there is a good poker player in there somewhere, but he's not around right now. And I just don't have, like you said, I just don't have time, Howard. As a player as well, you need to really be playing to be good. And I really don't play seriously anymore. Maybe one day get a little older, buy some of those nice horses and can slow down a little bit. Maybe I'll get back into the poker game, but no, not lately.
Well, that's pretty cool. Joe, you're so talented, everything you do. Congratulations on all your success as a Bloodstock agent, Jockey Agent, everything you do for the Adelphi Racing Club. On behalf of the Adelphi Racing Club, we all appreciate all the work you're doing at the sales, and I look forward to meeting you and also your family. I'd love to meet your parents. Also, hopefully, this summer I'll be there again in June for the first time at the Belmont Stakes. I'm sure we'll find a way to hook up, and then I'll be at Saratoga in July. So, any closing thoughts before we end the show, Joe?
Oh no! Look, I excited to see you at those places this summer, Howard, and excited to meet in person, and honestly excited to meet so many of the new partners with Adelphi. Just Matt is just a tremendous guy that I've met a few years back, and we've become very close, and I can just vouch for what a tremendous a gentleman he is, and a guy that's really trying to get people into the game in a positive way and really educate them so that they can have a good experience. And I'm excited to see what the future has in store for Adelphi. And man, I really hope I pick out some fast horses for you guys, and we can all have a great time and make some lifelong memories.
I'm sure you will. And we look forward to seeing Salivo and Magistrate on the track sometime soon, winning lots of money. That's Joe Migliore. Joe, thanks a lot. I'm going to actually leave you here on screen here as we end the show. This has been Howard Kravitz, and this has been episode 2 of All About Adelphi. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks, and we hope to see you next time on episode 3 of All About Adelphi, and this Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, with Matt Bernier, talking a little Kentucky Derby news and prep, and also a great day at Oaklawn Park this Saturday. For Joey Migliore, this is Howard Kravitz. Take care, everyone. Good night.